The sun bore down on sagebrush, hollow like a vengeful deity, its heat searing the cracked earth until it seemed to pulse with a life of its own. I, Jonah Creed, stood frozen at the edge of my corral, staring into the black maw of Caleb Voss's Colt .45, its metallic click louder than the thunder that had haunted my dreams for 20 years. The air was thick with the promise of blood, and my heart, long buried beneath layers of grief, pounded like a war drum, betraying the stoic mask I'd worn since the smallpox took my Clara and left me a husk of a man. My ranch, a lonesome sprawl of sage and cedar, was my sanctuary, its 60 head of Angus cattle grazing under the watchful eye of fences I'd mended with hands that once cradled a woman's face. For 2 decades, I'd spoken to no one save the lowing herd and the wind that howled secrets through the mesquite. But today, a stranger breached my solitude, a woman named Leela Rose, who stepped through the dust like a vision from a dime novel, her auburn hair catching the sun like wildfire, her denim skirt clinging to legs carved by a life on the move. I'd seen her kind before, or so I thought, drifters with stories etched in their eyes, passing through on their way to nowhere. But Lila was different. Her gaze, sharp as a hawk's, held a fire that stirred something deep in my chest, a flicker of warmth I'd sworn was dead. She leaned against my gate, one boot propped on the lowest rail, her calloused fingers tracing the grain of the weathered wood. "Heard tell you raise the meanest herd this side of the Colorado," she said, her voice a blend of Texas drawl and the open vowels of an Australian drover. "Care to show a wanderer your stock, Mr.?" My throat seized up, words rusted from disuse. Her voice was a melody I hadn't earned, a violation of the silence I'd built to keep Clara's ghost at bay. I wanted to retreat to the barn, where the scent of hay and oiled leather could shield me from the memory of her laughter, soft as summer rain. But Lila's eyes pinned me where I stood, seeing not the broken man I'd become, but the rancher who'd once gentled wild broncos with a touch. "Just cattle," I managed, my voice rough as the gravel underfoot. "Nothin' special. Ain't nothin' ever, just nothin'," she replied, a smile tugging at her lips, wise and weathered, like she'd seen the world's underbelly and still found reason to grin. That smile cracked something in me, a fault line in the stone I'd made of my heart. As I reached for the gate's latch, the ground trembled with the fury of approaching hooves. 6 riders burst over the ridge, their silhouettes jagged against the horizon, dust swirling like the breath of hell itself. Leading them was Caleb Voss, a man whose name was whispered in saloons from Abilene to Santa Fe, a collector of debts paid in blood or tears. His posse 5 hard men with eyes like flint trained up just shy of my fence, their horses lathered and snorting. "Well, now, Jonah Creed," Caleb drawled, his voice like oil over a blade. "The lonesome wolf of Sagebrush Hollow. And who's this pretty thing grazing on your patch?" His spurs jangled as he dismounted, a predator's grin splitting his sun-lathered face. Leela stepped closer, her scent juniper and trailed dust hitting me like a shot of whiskey, stirring memories of Clara's hands weaving wildflowers into her braid. Her posture stiffened, a Mustang ready to bolt or fight. Caleb's laugh was a rattlesnake's hiss, words out of firebrand like you's been sniffing round Willow Creek, askin' 'bout my boss's ledgers. Dangerous game for a lone gal. My blood ran cold. Lila wasn't here. By chance she'd brought trouble to my door, the kind that left shallow graves and coyote-chewed bones. Every instinct screamed to step back, let the storm pass, and return to my cattle and silence. But her chin lifted, defiant, And in that moment, I saw Clara's courage, her unyielding spirit, facing down a fever no prayer could tame. "She's on my land," I said, my voice low but steady, like the rumble before a stampede. "That makes her my concern." Caleb's hand hovered over his revolver, his eyes glinting with the thrill of the hunt. But Leela moved faster, placing herself between me and the riders, a shield of grit and grace. "Caleb Voss," she said, her words sharp as a bowie knife. "I've crossed deserts and dodged bullets to face the man who killed my sister. Ellie Rose, in a saloon brawl you called justice." The air turned to glass, shattering with her words. Leela wasn't a drifter. She was vengeance in a faded bonnet, her sister's murder 6 months past, a wound still bleeding. Caleb's grin widened, yellowed teeth bared like a wolf's. "Lots o' gals meet bad ends in my line o' work. You'll need mourn a sad tale to make me recall." Her hand twitched toward the folds of her skirt, and I knew she was reaching for Aruna Derringer, likely hidden where no man would dare look. But before she could draw, a crack split the sky, not from Caleb's gun, but from the ridge beyond my pasture. A rifle shot, clean and true, sent Caleb's horse screaming, blood blooming on its flank as it collapsed, pinning its rider in a tangle of leather and dust. Chaos erupted. Caleb's men drew, their revolvers spitting fire. But another shot from the ridge dropped one rider, his body slumping like a sack of grain. My cattle stampeded, their bellows drowning the curses as dust choked the air. I grabbed Lila, yanking her behind a water trough, my old Sharps rifle already in hand. "Stay low," I growled, my pulse hammering as I returned fire. The recoil jarring memories of a life I'd tried to bury. Through the haze, I saw him a lone shooter, moving like a wraith among my panicked herd. Tall, grizzled, with a duster coat flapping like raven wings. He fired again, clipping another of Caleb's men in the knee. The outlaw howled, his horse bolting as he clung to the saddle. Leela's breath was hot against my ear, her derringer now drawn, trembling not from fear but from a rage so pure it could have set the prairie ablaze. "He killed Ellie," she whispered, her voice breaking like brittle ice. "Shot her down like a dog over a spilled drink." I gripped her wrist, not to stop her, but to steady the storm within her. "Not like this," I said, my own voice foreign to my ears, thick with a protectiveness I hadn't felt since Clara's fevered nights. "You die here. Her death means nothing, Caleb." Half freed from his thrashing horse, fired wildly, a bullet grazing my shoulder. The sting sharp but distant compared to the fire Lila's nearness kindled. I returned fire, my aim true enough to send his hat spinning into the dirt, but the mystery shooter beat me to the punch. His next shot took Caleb's gun hand, blood spraying as the revolver skittered across the ground. "Who the hell is that?" Leela gasped, her eyes darting between me and the chaos. The shooter stepped clear of the herd, his face visible now Jasper Holt, a man I'd hoped never to see again. His silver hair gleamed under a battered hat, his eyes cold as a winter moon, carrying the weight of sins we'd both buried in a canyon called Devil's Fork 20 years ago. "Jonah Creed," he called, his voice calm as a preacher's. "Reckon we got unfinished business." My gut twisted. Jasper wasn't just a ghost. He was the architect of my ruin, the partner whose greed turned a clean heist into a massacre, costing Clara her life and me my soul. Lila's gaze flicked to me, confusion warring with her fury. "You know him?" she asked, her derringer still aimed at Caleb, who cursed and clutched his mangled hand. We got history, I said, the words tasting of ash. Jasper's rifle stayed steady, but his eyes locked on mine, promising a reckoning older than Leela's vendetta. Caleb's remaining men hesitated, their loyalty fraying as their boss bled into the dust. One, a wiry kid named Tommy Rolls, barely old enough to shave, spurred his horse and fled, shouting for the others to follow. They did, leaving Caleb to his fate. Touching reunion, Caleb spat, struggling to rise. But I ain't done with this she-devil, or you, Creed. Jasper's rifle swung toward him, casual as a man swatting a fly. Your time's up, Voss. Been marked since you gunned down Ellie Rose. My cousin's girl. The pieces fell together like a hangman's noose, tightening. Lila's quest for her sister's killer had drawn Jasper, a man who hunted debts as relentlessly as Caleb, to my doorstep. You're working together? I asked, my voice hollow, the weight of betrayal stirring old wounds. Ellie was family, Jasper said, his tone flat but his eyes burning. Leela's letter found me in Tucson. Said she needed a tracker to hunt a killer. Didn't know I'd find you here, Jonah, nursing your ghosts. Leela's breath hitched. I didn't know Ellie was kin to you, Jasper. Just heard you could find a man in a sandstorm and make him pay. Finding folks is my trade, Jasper said. His rifle still trained on Caleb, but blood makes it personal. Caleb's laugh was a death rattle. You think you'll walk away from this halt? My Bosler have your hide stretched by sundown. Jasper's smile was colder than a norther. Your boss, don't scare me, boss. I've been dead in